I'm good.
All right, welcome back to the CineNerds, everyone. Episode 11. So thanks for sticking with us for the last 11, 11 grueling weeks of JP's picks of movies.
My picks are amazing.
Garbage.
50-50.
But I'm James.
I'm JP.
I'm Ryan.
We are your CineNerds, and today we're doing my pick. I picked 1989's The Abyss. James Cameron kind of had a career everyone wishes they had, I'd say, in film, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, James Cameron is kind of one of the guys that's done it all.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. I mean, the guy started, and I don't know if a lot of people even realize this, but he started a lot of his early career working with Roger Corman, doing low-budget exploitation films and things of that nature. I believe didn't he do one of the Piranhas?
Yes.
He did.
His first two directors,
Piranha
chairs.
2.
Yeah.
Was that?
It was Piranha.
I thought
it was
Terminator and Aliens.
He did do Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And he did do Aliens, but he did Piranha 2, The Spawning in 1982.
Yeah, he did
I didn't
Piranha
know he
2
did that.
because the first one was done by oh god, it's going to bother me now because I can't think of who did the first Piranha, but it was another like big actor or a big director that it was just kind of odd that they did.
The thing that I find funny here is his. I'm looking at the nominations that he's had, and I know it's about The Abyss, but I mean, Cameron's huge. Let's be honest. I'm not a film guy like you guys, and I know the name James Cameron. So, one, he did one of my favorite movies. I didn't realize it as a kid. I love True Lies. I think that movie's great.
Yeah.
So that makes me happy. But I'm looking at Titanic. 14 nominations, 11 wins for Academy Awards. That's amazing. I'm actually surprised they even lost 3. But the BAFTA Awards, 10 nominations. Goose egg. Couldn't get 1 out of 10 with that movie. And something's weird about that. I kind of actually want to dive a little deeper into see who they lost to. Because that's a little Golden Globes, 8 nominations for Titanic, 4 wins. Okay. But a goose egg. Something not right there.
Oh, first Piranha, Joe Dante.
The fact that your brain
I don't know Joe
brought
Dante.
that,
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
familiar.
back to eating my candies.
you know Joe Dante.
I probably do
You'll-
because
you- yeah,
it's like your Albert Pine when you.
well, no,
started going-
he's Joe Dante's done a lot. He did, was it Gremlins? He's done a lot of films like that. It was a lot of the films
I've never seen Gremlins.
Did you say
always.
Gremlins or Kremlins? Because I thought that would tie us into this whole Russian sub thing.
Gremlins.
Kremlin? No.
Boo.
Ready for another boo? You ready? Knock knock.
Boo.
Give me the who's it. Come on, you got to run with
Let
this.
him do it.
Come on,
I don't want to be involved.
Who is it?
Harvey.
Harvey who?
Harvey, ready to have fun yet? Let's get into the abyss.
It's been 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Thanks for tuning in. I'm done. Couldn't go 4 minutes.
So I'm assuming everyone has seen this film before.
I saw it once when I was younger, so that's why I picked it, because it's been on my list literally for years. I think about it randomly. I'm like, I need to watch that again. So I felt like this was the perfect time to do that. I love this movie. I really do. Like, there's no slowdown. There's no bad parts. Everything made sense. I'm not a big alien person and extraterrestrial weirdness, but they did it right, in my opinion. It wasn't overly annoying. It was done tastefully well. I love quite a few of the actors in this movie. I've always loved Ed Harris. Mary Elizabeth, I cannot say her last name, but I loved her as Maid Marian. I thought she played the part really well. So there's really good cast, really good acting. Would have actually loved to see, I would love to see how it was made. I know. I looked it up. I did look up some stuff. It was done in a really big production.
Yeah,
it wasn't like they didn't go out in the middle of nowhere and do this.
I remember watching a and I want to say it was probably on HBO or something in the 90s. How they always did the behind the scenes, or like little documentaries on like big films that were coming out. And I believe I watched one on this because I remember they had like this pool that was in a like a warehouse or power plant or something that they actually built the deep core, wherever it was called. They actually built it in.
Do you want me to give you details on it?
Go ahead.
So it's an abandoned nuclear power plant.
Okay, yeah.
And they actually, at the time, I actually wrote this down because it was really intriguing to me. At the time, it was the largest freshwater aquarium in the country. And it had, what was it, 40, it was 40, let me make sure I have the numbers here. It was 40 meters across and 17 meters deep. So this was massive, and it put these actors through a lot. There was almost, in the whole filming process, and we'll get into it more, but there was almost several different drownings.
I do remember that Ed Harris will not even talk about this film because the experience was so bad.
And neither will her, who we will not speak her name. I'll call her Lindsay for the actress. It's something Antonio something. But yeah, Lindsay had a moment too with Ed Harris.
Mastrantonio.
Okay.
Sure. I tried.
Time So yeah, there's a lot happening in this.
So like when I was a kid, I grew up watching this one. So I had watched this a number of times through the years, and it was one of these movies that I watched a lot as a kid. So it was a film that I was really familiar with, and when you picked it, I was already waiting because you picked it back in November, and I was already waiting because I knew before he even picked it, I knew that in December the 4K edition was getting ready to come out, and so I was already looking because I was going to buy the 4K when it came out. So when you said The Abyss, I hadn't actually picked it up at that point, and so I was, I was like, oh, I was going to buy that anyway.
After that rewatch, though, I'm really pissed that I missed the theatrical release. They did a limited theatrical release with that 4K that came out with movie posters, the whole bit, and I would have loved to see that on the big screen with that remastered. Oh, it would have been amazing.
I just think this is one of those movies that it's older, but it did stand time. Like, it looks good. It doesn't.
Well, most of James Cameron's films do. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Terminator, if you look at Aliens, you look at Titanic, I mean, everything he's ever done.
It's very realistic. It's very. It's solid.
I mean, minus Piranha 2.
I'm not going to watch that.
One of the big things I want to unpackage here is the emotional traumas, if you will, the actors are going through that added to the cinematography and the directorial aspects of this whole movie. There was definitely tensions on set, tensions that fueled into certain scenes that kept that realism. At the same time, this movie definitely paved the way for a lot of special events, future CGI, special events. You know what I meant. But CGI essentially going forward, and it was groundbreaking.
Well, I know that Industrial Light and Magic did the special effects for the water
tentacle
and the water tentacle, and that was kind of what inspired James Cameron to do the liquid metal T-1000 in Terminator 2 was because of this movie.
I should watch that.
Probably.
You haven't seen T2?
No,
well worth the watch. You'll enjoy it.
So I'd say let's kind of go through the movie for those who don't know it.
Yeah. Go for it.
So I kind of find it funny that I don't know if you guys caught this. That's why I pulled this up, so I wanted to remember. Find this real quick. So this movie is actually set to be ahead of time of when it came out. I don't know if you guys knew that. Did you know that?
Mm-mm. Yeah.
It's supposed to be 1994.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize that. But long story short, and I'm probably going to simplify this too much for you guys. You guys tend to go into more detail, but It always, I felt like this time period of life, it was always about the Russians, and
Yes.
like The Saint came out like years later, and it was still about the Russians. Like it was just, but they're looking for nuclear warheads, and they know where it's at, and they want to go get it, and shit happens, and the vessel that was underwater ends up crashing. They end up sending. There were oil. Is that what they were doing? What was Bud? What were they? I can't remember now.
Yeah, they were.
They were deep sea miners.
Deep sea miners.
And the only way that they were close enough that they could trust to go find if anyone was alive. They knew damn well no one was alive.
A little more to that too. There was a storm that was coming in, a hurricane.
True.
Yeah.
And the hurricane was making it difficult for the rescue crews to reach them in a timely manner. And I believe, if I remember correct, by going through the miners, it was a 15-hour turnaround to get the survivors.
You're 100. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And I don't think it was ever a rescue mission. I think it was
no. That's what they masked it as a rescue mission.
Yeah, it was more.
No one was alive. They knew no one was alive.
It was more get there to get the warheads out of there before.
Exactly, and that was the only part of me. That's like that one dude took it so serious about just the mission that it angered me.
Are you talking about Coffee?
I can't remember his name, to be honest
the
with you.
main villain
Yeah.
kind of guy?
Michael
Bean.
Yeah.
Which I find funny, even though it's spelled differently, Bean, but his name was Coffee in that, so I thought that was kind of funny. But he had what's called HPNS, or high pressure nervous syndrome, and you can see this spiral downward. Of him.
Yeah, you
like,
can watch
he
him
mentally
just
loses
loses his mind.
And Lindsay, the character of Lindsay, she actually starts giving the symptoms of what that is as it unfolds, and she's trying to explain it to him, and he's quick to be like, "We know, we got it, we're SEALs." Blah blah blah. Like, he starts being really cocky, and then you see, like, not even like a couple minutes later, after they've gone through the decompression process, his hand starts to get the shakes, and you see that start to spiral.
And it's like a decompression psychosis type thing, and it's a real thing. I actually looked into this. I was like, is that real?
I think you'd get it.
What? I probably do.
I don't. First of all, he would have already lost his mind because of that being in close quarters.
Yeah.
No, you got to understand. Like, he needed off subject. Sorry, he needed a pill. He needed an anxiety pill. Just watching Waylon get his face casted. He wasn't even in it. He was just watching it, and he could see him just slowly, like, no,
I can't give him
no.
shit. I had to take a Klonopin to fly. Like, I just got off a flight myself, and
You guys are
fuck
adorable.
that.
Yeah,
You guys are so
I had
adorable.
to take Klonopin to fly,
Dude,
and have a stiff drink on top of it.
And he don't drink.
And I don't drink.
No, I took my gummy. And my Klonopin. I was still white knuckled on the seats.
Meanwhile,
I
am I the only one that flies that's like, oh, good, phone's off, leave me alone?
I asked my doctor one time, because she knows, like, I'm petrified of heights. Like, I would not get on a plane.
So you're not
this
going to
is
go
great.
cliff diving?
And she goes, well, take your Klonopin and have a drink before you get on the plane. She goes, JP, now I'm not telling you to get drunk while taking your medication.
Yes.
She goes, I am telling you to have a drink. So the first time I flew, I got like 3 of the tall boy wickeds, and took.
What is wrong with you?
Wait, it gets better.
No, it doesn't.
It does. I didn't take one of my pills. I took 2 of my pills, and then I downed 3 of those tall boy wickeds, and I don't know how I got through security.
I'm surprised you're not on a no-fly list.
I don't know how. I don't even remember going through security.
So let's rewind here. Let's give a little. I want to give a little context to you guys
So
watching.
now you want to fly with JP just to watch
I
this
do.
unfold?
Well, no, I just want to have drinks with him. If that's the way. If that's the way we drink, that's the way we drink. Anyways, no. So we all kind of have our own fears. Actually, what's your fear, James? What are your fears?
Fat bottom
You have
girls.
You have no fears.
I mean,
Like the dentist, needles,
No.
anything weird.
dude, do you not see how many tattoos I have?
I have tattoos too. It's still a control aspect. I hate needles.
I have over time trained myself to just go, is what it is. Here we go.
Yeah, no, that goes right out the window with heights for me. Or sharks. Sharks coming up from the bottom of the depths to kill you and drag you down. And yeah. But JP is also heights and claustrophobic, yes?
Yep.
So this is going to be interesting. So at the end of this, when I tell you guys my next choice of movie, you're going to shit yourself. But let's go back into Abyss. We got off topic like normal.
I'm hoping now at some point I have to fly with JP because this is going to be. I'm going to have reels for days to put on Facebook.
Oh, everybody has a blast when they fly with me.
Oh my goodness! All right, so they send the SEAL team in. I can't remember now. What did they say? What was the reasoning they were there though? Their reasoning they were there.
They were
just
like
to help.
Yeah, they were a safety net to make sure that it happened.
That's what I
but
thought.
they had the alternative.
But they were there for.
Mission.
They knew what they were there for, and so everybody that's drilling and mining is now going against them. They're just trying to stay alive at this point. Like they realize what's going on. They realize why they're there, but they're just trying to stay alive at some point. Like one of my favorite parts was when Bud and the other guy went out and had to swim to find the holes to get in to try to get in that room because he locked them out. I actually like that part was. I thought it was a pretty cool part, you know. But something that we haven't touched on yet. So, Bud and Lindsay are estranged.
Estranged husband and
Still
wife.
married.
I was going to go down this road too.
Still
okay.
married.
But there's a correlating thing with
And
that.
a lot of hatred. A lot of hatred.
Did you know Cameron was going through a divorce while he's filming this?
No.
And Lindsay's character is based off his ex-wife.
Perfect.
So that's where you get all the hostility. He has the happy ending towards the end, but you start to see this be projected, and like one of the focused scenes was when it wasn't Bud that was doing it. It was Coffee that was doing it. But he's like, since I met you, I wanted to do this, and he puts the tape over her mouth. That was a Cameron moment where he was definitely putting his personal life into that world, and I really was here for it. I love you, Jess, but yes.
It was fun. It was fun watching their banter, though. It wasn't annoying. It was. I mean, like it was real life kind of banter. It's you could tell like there was love there at one point, and there still was obviously, but you could tell it's really buried under resentment, and honestly, maybe a little bit of jealousy on his part. I mean, she designed the whole thing. She's a fucking genius.
And he was just the grunt.
Yeah, he was just there.
Yeah.
So there's probably a little bit of resentment and a little bit of jealousy in there, just of that nature. But this guy, they end up having to go out and go to try to get the nuke, and they don't know how deep this suit can really go. And it was really well. Hold on, I guess I went a little too far. Before that happens, she's dead. Like the whole thing, water busts in. Like they're trying to close doors. They're calling. Basically, Bud had to make a choice to not save people because he had to shut the door.
Yeah, because he had they
couldn't get the door to shut.
The Marines or SEALs or wherever they were take the sub to go get the warhead.
Yep.
And during that time, the hurricane comes through, and they were needing to detach from the cable, but the sub they needed to detach the cable, they took. And so they couldn't detach the cable, and so when the hurricane hit, it started breaching.
Fucking everything up.
So let me rewind a little bit here. So since I already enjoyed this movie and already knew about this movie, and I'm a big fan of the movie, I was more intrigued this watch through of the kind of behind the scenes aspects because of all the intensity and the spite that was going on amongst the cast. Did you know that scene that you love with Ed Harris is the scene that he drowned? He drowned.
I'm not surprised.
Cameron kept filming knowing that there was an element of something going wrong. He didn't know what. And Cameron kept filming it. When they finally resuscitated Harris, he stood up and he laid out Cameron.
Yeah,
he punched him.
Yeah, he punched James Cameron.
And I found that like, holy shit. Like that if that doesn't embody showing you what these people went through on this cast, I don't know what does. That's insane.
I'm not surprised either because that was a long. I mean, you're watching film. You're assuming things are spliced up. You're assuming you're still underwater. You're still there's got to be some kind of preparation to get your body prepared to do something like this. I used to lifeguard as a kid, when I was younger, and I used to go to the rec center and go swimming all the time.
We
and
were
I
both
used to,
lifeguards.
But I mean, I used to see how long. At one point, I held my breath for almost 2 minutes. Now I probably couldn't go 25 seconds. And so what they had to do, knowing what parts they had coming up, was probably very stressful alone, just in preparation. And then imagine the amount of practice you put in, and then you go into real game time mode. The stress of that. So I'm not surprised that happened at that point, because the only other part I could see that happening is when they were dropping him. And I'd like to think that they had a really close eye on that situation, because that's scary. But she she drowned. What happened to her? She drowned.
Well,
oh no, that's
she
right.
intentionally drowned herself.
She drowned herself. I had to remember.
Yeah.
So they went out to get it, and they get stuck,
I got
and
a
the only way.
background story for this too. So
Well, this is a much later after that, because they basically, Michael Bihn's character holds them all hostage, and then goes out with the warhead that they get during that time when the storm came through, because he's going to drop the warhead into the trench because he knows there's something down there. So she gets in the other sub to try to stop them, and they sit there and basically smash their subs up. And
so, rewind. This is a good moment for this question because you just touched on that. Which versions did you all watch?
I watched the new 4K.
Was it the director's cut, or just the?
I watched.
I don't know if I don't know if those are the same.
Yeah, I'm
so
not sure.
I guess the director's cut polishes up a lot of the unknown or the questionable variables of the aliens. There's an extra half hour of restored footage that was meant to be there that wasn't there previously, and in that half hour footage, there's a moment where the aliens act more like judges and jury above humankind.
I did not see that.
Okay, yeah. Then I watched the director's cut.
Yeah, so
I have like the original DVD. That's what I
so
watched.
when that bomb gets dropped down, though, they're like, okay, let's see what they do, like that kind of deal. Like, so it's
And actually, and it's funny you said that, because I didn't remember all that, and it had been years since I've watched it. And when I watched it, all that was in there, and I was like, this feels different for some reason. And
so back then in '89, I forgot the initial budget they gave Cameron to start off with, but I do know by the time they had gotten 3/4 of the way through the film, he was already like something like $5 million over budget. I'm just guessing numbers, but I knew it was significantly over. And so they had to reassess how they went back into it, and some of those things like the movie getting shortened and things like that are what we got.
Well, the thing is, when they get stuck, they have to make a decision on what to do. There's only one suit that can get them out. So she says, "You bring me back." I was angry at that part. That was the only part I got angry at. But I'm curious if you guys know why. Can you figure out why?
Because of the lift that she put on his shoulders, the weight and responsibility?
No.
No? Okay.
No, not even that.
a lot of times there's a backup air thing.
Not that.
Okay.
Why did he just go? She didn't have to drown before you left. Just go. You could have been a quarter of the way there in less time of her
I
gone.
thought about that.
Go.
I thought about that. And the reason I think it was advantageous to have her drowned that moment was instead of the emotions that are fueled behind her drowning while they're underwater. I think that would have slowed them down and slowed down the intention because you're worried about the moment.
I feel that if it was me pulling my wife and this was the decision that was made, I would have been going even faster. I wouldn't even, not to say I wouldn't care about the moment, but I would have been going as fast. I mean, granted, he probably went as fast as he could anyway, but it's now you have a mental state of hold down that
words.
You could try to get back before she's even gone.
But those words, being a former lifeguard, I don't know if you ever put in the position, but like,
I saved one kid.
Well, when somebody's going down, it's a state of panic. You're flailing and going nuts.
True.
You don't expect so.
But I would like to think that they should know better and she should just deal with it. Because of the situation, they're always in water. They like this is what they do. Just a movie. It is what it is. That was the only part that got me angry.
Fair.
You're wasting time. You're filling up in water. Either of you, like, just go.
While we're at this point, though,
yeah.
So when the resuscitation comes into play, So this was an interesting scene for me because I did the deep dive on this part too. So they dilated her pupils to give the effect of the death further. She was already in the cold water, so her color was a natural tone.
Yeah.
But Ed Harris, because they were all about method acting, he was actually hitting the shit out of her. And that's what they wanted to happen, and she was good for it. But when they kept doing take after take after take,
beating her up,
she finally was like, she screamed at Cameron at one point, "We're not animals." And she stormed off the set, so they couldn't finish the rest of the scene. So I thought it was really, really amazing, the creativity of how he spun it. It was the camera angle up at Harris's face, and they put sandbags in place, and he's acting at sandbags and hitting the shit out of these sandbags to get that vibe. And I was like, well done after knowing that and seeing it.
Yeah.
I was like, he really fucking drove that home. Like, I believed he was actually on top of her, bringing her back to life.
Does this make you look a little differently at him, being that their two main actors have gone off on you? Do you consider him like a genius, or do you consider him like maybe he's a little bit
I
of a
consider
maniac?
him a genius because he was just as vested in this as they were, because he almost drowned as well on this set. So,
Okay.
I'm pretty... And I believe... I don't remember if this one's correct. I think he plays an extra in the water, one of the bodies. And I think, if I remember correctly, he had to put a live crab in his mouth, bite down on it, swim down 20 feet, and then when they film the shot, the crab, he opens his mouth for the crab to come out of the mouth. That scene was him. So I didn't know that. So, I don't know. Interesting.
But you know what, though, like, to go back to the actual movie, when he was trying to bring her back, that's the first time you see the love was kind of coming back before they made the decision, but that was the first time. I mean, like, they were like, "Look, you're done. Stop." And then and it kind of puts you in a spot where you've been married for years. I've been married now. To me and Heather have been together a little over a year, and it makes you wonder, when would you stop? Would you stop?
No.
Because they tried to tell him to stop multiple times, and
it depends which marriage.
So much can be, anyways.
And that was The Abyss. Thank you for joining us. I would literally end it right there. Go watch the end if you want to know the rest. That's a really good point, JP. But with that being said, but seriously though, I mean, like, I was sitting there, you kind of tear up a little bit because you're like, damn, like, I mean, he played the part so well. The emotional, vested, like, everyone there's crying. You got the guy with the rat, which I love the rat. I do. Like, I don't like rats, but that rat was that was.
Do you know?
I was gonna say, do you know that the liquid oxygen?
Do you know what the BBC what happened because of that scene?
I don't know about that, but I do know that the liquid oxygen is real.
Oh no, I've watched the thing about that. I've actually recently looked up into that before this.
They really did put that rat.
Not just that rat. There was 4 rats.
Yeah, in that liquid oxygen.
Now, animal cruelty is a big thing in the UK, though. So because of that scene, The Abyss was completely banned from that because of that. They were worried, even though the animals were all proven to be fine. The 4th rat that they used, I guess they were concerned because of that one went into cardiac arrest, and when they handled it, they pulled it by its tail, and these are the things that they used for justification, right? But it was so cool that Cameron himself did chest compressions on this rat when it went into cardiac arrest, and then kept it as a pet. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the liquid oxygen is real. But what I read, because I actually went into a little rabbit hole on that.
It's a rat hole?
That
I said rat hole and his cat meowed outside the door. Sorry, couldn't have been more perfect timing.
But the liquid oxygen, it doesn't produce enough oxygen for humans to use, from what I was reading. But for small animals, it can, it produces enough oxygen so that they can breathe it and they can survive breathing.
And there was a scene where they were supposed to, the actors were going to be using that in the scene, but not really. Because at that time it was experimental too. So I don't know where they're at with that now.
From what I've read, I don't think that, or publicly anyway, there was nothing that said that they were any further than they were back then with it.
I do think it was a lot though in a movie, considering you just get her back and then right away they're like, okay, now you go in there. Like the whole role reversal. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, they're at the bottom of an ocean. Anything can go wrong at any moment. There's a crazy dude with HPNS who's got a nuke. There's a whole bunch of fuckery happening. So I guess those back-to-back moments can happen, though.
well, the end of this movie, Bud, he's sacrificing himself. Let's just be. I mean, he is. He
tried.
He is not expecting to come back. And he gets sent to the deepest, darkest part of the water that no one would ever want to go
Yeah,
to.
he goes down the trench.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I can't remember how far it said they went, but I mean, and he's got a little pad. He can talk to them. He can't speak because of the
liquid oxygen.
nitrogen, oxygen. But he's, he can talk. And she's talking to him and trying to, and then, he starts getting a little funny, obviously, and I'm sure technology's not. I mean, it's 1989. That's not going to work that great down there. But he gets down there and he finds it and he cuts the right wire, which was kind of funny because, he's like, cut the blue wire and you can't tell. And she's like, all right, get back up here. And he just writes, I think I'm going to stay a while.
Yeah, he's like, we knew it was a one-way trip.
Yeah, and it's just, it's sad. Like, it's pretty sad. Like I said, I'm not a big alien. Talk about that in another episode.
At this moment, I'll remind James that earlier our conversation before we started filming was that I was calling him emo, and he said he was not emo. That was a very emotionally.
There's a difference between being emotional and there's a difference between just being a crybaby.
Yeah.
I don't listen to emo music.
Fair.
I've never been to an emo night.
I haven't either.
I refuse to go to one because I don't like the music.
So at this point, this is where you were saying the director's cut basically changes
everything.
And so I bet what we watched.
I think I have a director's cut though.
Maybe
on
different.
my DVD that I have.
Maybe
I'll
different.
have to go back and watch it at the end. So just watch from the water down.
So the big complaint, because this is as amazing as The Abyss is, this is his most underperforming. Even though it had a positive return, it wasn't that much, and it was his most underperformed movie. So, and it was not received well by people either. So the initial cut, though, at the end, it kind of like really skips past the alien aspect and just goes right into happy ending.
Well, I mean, they save them.
Yeah, but this, and I'll be honest with you. The ending that I watched, the ending that I did not remember ever seeing that I watched this time, I wasn't a fan of it.
Really?
I was not a fan of it because of the whole. I hated the idea. To give context, Ed Harris sees a light. He swims out to the light. He ends up meeting up with the aliens. They open up like the water and push oxygen in so he can take his helmet off, so he can actually breathe on their ship. And I believe, basically, at this point, for the most part, the ship basically they take him up at that point.
Well, they do show him some. They show him writing saying one-way trip. They were recording him do it somehow.
So, but for the most part, there's little interactions. But basically, in the original cut, they go.
He says
up.
they're not going to believe this, and they come up under everybody.
So the director's cut that we watched. This is kind of what I did not like about it. It shows that, but then it starts showing video footage of war and nuclear weapons and just how bad humanity is. So at this point, a ginormous wave, like 100-foot wave, shows up on the coast of like every coast. And then it stops. And basically it's Ed Harris's decision on what he says if they're going to kill humanity or they're going to let us live is essentially what they're saying. Ed Harris chooses right. The waves lower and they bring him up. So I didn't like it because I didn't like the fact that all of a sudden these aliens were judge and executioners when you didn't see much of them.
So
for the most part of the bulk of the film, then all of a sudden they're judge and executioners, and deciding the fate of humanity.
But I think what they're alluding to in that moment is that they've always been watching regardless. So my other question too is, one of the things that I'm perplexed by was because of how deep they are in the ocean and what's going on. Are they aliens, or have they always been there? That was my big thing. I don't know that divide.
Is there? What's the difference? I mean, whatever we don't know, we consider it's called an alien anyway.
Yeah.
Extraterrestrial versus terrestrial. That's kind of my mindset with that. But so, to me, if they see a problem, they see us as the pest, and we've got that moment to validate ourselves, and Ed Harris made the right choice, thank God. I thought that gave a lot more...
thank God.
I thought that gave a lot more context.
It gives more context of why they're there, especially if they're extraterrestrial, or even if they're native to the ocean. However you look at it, it does give more of a context of a purpose for them. But at the same time, I hated the fact that they made them judge and executioners and for humanity, and I don't think I like that ending as much as the original ending.
I think that if you take away the walls of the waves being positioned on the front door of all the countries, I think if you take that aspect out of it, though, we need more reminders to be in front of us to take better care of this place. You know? So that's my hippie moment. I'm done with the hippie shit. Yeah.
And I think that's why I didn't like it, because it felt like a hippie moment for the movie. The bulk of the movie feels like Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
It really does. The bulk of the film feels like Aliens, and then all of a sudden, it has like this. If we don't change, if we don't stop wars, if we don't stop and save the environment, and this and that, then we're all going to die. And that's the message that it portrayed at the end in the director's cut.
When the aliens come into play, I got a lot of Close Encounters and a lot of 2001. Vibes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comparisons throughout those two, where even the cinematography, when you're looking at the helmets underwater and the way the lights are reflected off the helmets, the whole thing. And I'm doing this just for you, motherfucker. There's a scene that is definitely taken from Star Wars. 37 minutes, 26 seconds.
Thank you for looking.
You're welcome. So the scene where Ed Harris is chasing Lindsay's character down the hallway, and they're arguing the whole way, is almost exactly the same scene as Han Solo with Princess Leia on Echo Base in Empire Strikes Back. So it was pretty impressive. It gave me a connection with Harris from a Han Solo standpoint.
I like Ed Harris, so I like
At that point, did you go get your lightsaber out?
No, but let's talk about the fight scene between Coffee and Bean and Harris. That was fucking great.
Oh yeah, it was brutal. It was just a brutal brawl between them.
Like when Ed Harris picks the pipe up too, I'm like, ooh.
The thing is, it's really, in a fight scene like that, it's always funny to me when the crazy guy loses, because usually, come on, the crazy guy is really hard to take out when they just don't give a shit.
Here's the thing. He's a SEAL, so if he wasn't going insane, would he have actually taken him out? That's
a good point. That's a very good point.
Was not his A game.
I will say, though, this movie was a long movie.
And the director's cut's even longer.
Well, that was the big gamble when this originally released, because the original, before they dialed it back, the original was supposed to be 3 hours, and studios weren't willing to gamble with that. They didn't want to play around with that. So
most studios back then, they wanted you to have, kind of like the music industry, they want 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Back then, they were really looking at hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes max for most of your movies.
It's kind of funny. Films went longer, and music kept getting shorter.
Yeah.
Throughout the time period. I mean, this was running time of 140 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So, music, like you said, Alan Silvestri, he's the person who did the score. Mm-hmm. In the 80s, he did Back to the Future, Predator, and most recently did Avengers, the Avengers movies. So this dude's got some solid moments for the music parts of this. Also want to touch back on, we talked about it in another podcast, but we talked about kind of that golden age of when acting was acting, and people were more dependent upon one another to feed off of and build off of I felt this might have been one of the turning points of when that all started to die off, because this movie held true to all that.
Oh yeah.
Down to one of the sets, one of the rigs they had to make was a model set, but it was so large that they had to register it with the Coast Guard. I didn't know that. I thought that was pretty impressive. Like, that's how invested they were. And to get the effect of the deep water aspect, after they filled up the reactors with the water,
they covered it with something.
They're like black, like floating balls. I forget what they're called, but the entire layer was covered with these things so that it made the effect of the darkness, so no light could get down there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I knew they put something. I couldn't remember what it was, but yeah. So yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna move on to it. How much do you think this actually cost to make?
You know,
because for back then, this was a lot.
I wrote down numbers, but I didn't even look at some of the other ones that I had. But I honestly don't remember what numbers I wrote down or what, so I honestly don't know.
What do you think is an outrageous number for this?
An outrageous number for this would be, I would say, about $100 million.
Yeah, it's way over that. It was way under that.
Yeah, if I had to make a guess, I would say it's around 50.
I've got here says between 43 and 47.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they don't have the exact because of all the changes that had to be done.
Well, 43 was the initial,
and then it ended up being 47.
They went $5 million over.
Okay, so
and
48.
So that was the initial. Yeah.
Box office though, I don't feel like it was bad.
No,
consider. I mean, it may have been like one of his worst, but that's like saying like one of the biggest bands out there, their worst record was still a success.
Well, if a movie makes money, it's a success.
Right.
Was it between 56 and 60 million?
90.
Yeah, it was 90.
I
do know it was 90.
Because somebody told me, like, when I heard the initial cost, and then I heard it only made $9 million.
No,
I think that's domestic. I think it did get a worldwide, and so I think overall it was like 90 or 91 million.
Yeah, which is not bad. I mean, that's not a loss.
No,
you know, it may not be.
It wasn't Terminator 2 money.
Right.
It wasn't Titanic money, but it was.
No, but there was theories in my rabbit hole exploring as well that because you said Terminator 2, there's theories that this all happens in the same universe with Cameron, because the petroleum company that was in the Abyss was called Benthic Petroleum, and then one of these scenes, Benthic I guess means deep in the ocean, but one of the scenes in T2, they have a stickered logo of Benthic Petroleum in it in T2, so kind of cool.
I mean, in all reality, I mean, I know he's done a lot more. You know what? I'm just going to pull it up here for filmography. The feature films that he did was Piranha 2, then he did Terminator, then he did Aliens, then The Abyss. So this was his fourth, like, major film.
Yeah.
Then he did Terminator 2, True Lies, Titanic, and then, you know, Avatar. He's got two more he's got to do still of those, which I gotta be honest, the first Avatar I hated it.
I was
the second Avatar I actually liked a lot.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
it's totally different, because here's the thing: the original one, the last 45 minutes could have been taken out. Just the in and out shit could have just been gone. The new one was awesome enough. The fight scene at the end, both of you would love it.
Well, the thing with Avatar for me was when the first one came out, I was not a big fan of it. I didn't hate it. It was an okay movie, but I just wasn't blown away by it like a lot of people was. And so when the second one came out, 10, 15 years later.
Oh, much longer.
It
was like 14 years later.
Yeah, I had no desire, had no interest, so I never watched the second one just because I had no interest in it.
First Avatar was 2009. 13 years later, The Way of the Water came out. And then the next one's coming out next year, and then another one in 29.
I think, because you mentioned the name of the movie, I'm going to bring this one up, True Lies. I think that's one of his only films left. Maybe Aliens as well, that's waiting on the 4K releases. Right? Neither of those have been released.
Dude, True Lies is one of my all-time favorite movies.
So True Lies also, I'm going to throw in a quick little tidbits here before we get into the ratings. True Lies, I guess Jamie Lee Curtis was originally supposed to play the role of Lindsay. And she turned it down because... Did she do something in Scarface? Am I mixing up movies? Was Jamie Lee Curtis in Scarface in some way? She turned it down because another larger movie presented itself. But then later on, she caught back up with Cameron for that. And then I'll also mention, I feel like Cameron is doing movies just to fund his hobby.
Oh, absolutely.
He is obsessed with water. Like almost a majority of his movies are based around water. Whatever you can do around Titanic, for example, and his follow-up film he did where he went down in the submersible. I think he holds a world record with that or something. But it almost seems like he's just doing these movies to fund his adventures and his.
So one thing I wanted to mention was I watched this movie. I said at the beginning a lot when I was a kid. When this movie came out, I watched this. This is one of those films that I watched a ton when I was young. Then I've not watched it in years. But more so, like a lot of films that smaller studios capitalize on something that was profitable. Around the same time, you had Deep Star 6.
Oh, yeah.
You had
Leviathan.
Leviathan. That's where I was going was Leviathan. You had these, and what was it, Deep Rising.
I forgot about that
Deep
one.
Rising.
Yeah, I do remember that.
You had all these movies, and Sean Cunningham produced. I mean, he may have directed. I can't remember if he directed, but he definitely produced Deep Star 6, which was okay. I enjoyed that movie, but Leviathan, I love Leviathan, and I actually watched after I watched The Abyss here before, like a few weeks ago, before we were going to record this episode. I was like, I have to watch Leviathan now. And I went back and watched Leviathan, and Leviathan still holds up. It's so good.
What was the movie that just came out in the last 5 years? It was, I hate to say her name even, but Kristen Stewart, where she was...
Underwater. That movie is so good.
It is.
The
It's fucking so great. Good. But it reminded me of all those movies.
Yeah.
So, it's very good.
Yeah, though, honestly, Underwater is one of the better... I'm not a Kristen Stewart fan, but that movie is so good. And it's...
Closet.
It's so claustrophobic, and then it has the whole Cthulhu aspect in it, and that movie's so good.
The Kristen Stewart I put in that category of Megan Fox, where like, sure, I like to look at her. Do I want to hear her do an interview? Fuck no.
Well, I'm not a fan of hers, but she's done films I like. I love Underwater. I like American Ultra.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it's so good. It's basically and Walton Goggins is in it. It's basically a violent.
You know what? Here's what you're going to drive me to. I've been in depth thinking about this for the past 2 weeks. I'm like, I feel like we need to get a more well-known actor to come on the show and really, really drive it home. Who should I really go at? But somebody who's approachable and reasonable to grab. Walter fucking Goggins. And I had to put fucking in there because that's what we say.
But she also did that movie Adventureland. I liked Adventureland. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
I did. Was that with Clooney, right? No,
it was with Ryan Reynolds and Jesse Eisenberg.
Maybe I didn't.
And American Ultra is her and Jesse Eisenberg.
I do know. I knew the acting in those two,
yeah.
But yeah. I'm thinking of, is it Tomorrowland? Tomorrow World?
Tomorrow World. I never watched that.
Yeah. All the movies start to blur together at a certain point, so.
If you like The Abyss, watch Underwater.
That's all I had to say in the last 10 minutes. Jesus. What do you give it? How many nerds? I should have brought nerds.
Realizing now that I watched the director's cut, I wished I hadn't, because it kind of made me hate the ending of this movie. And
based off the theatrical, because that's what most people have seen. Or give both.
I'm gonna give both. I think if I had watched the original theatrical version, I would give this. I'm gonna give it a solid 4. I'm gonna give it a solid 4.
Theatrical.
That's theatrical. The director's cut that I watched this time, the ending, I hated it to a point that I would probably lower it as far as a 3.2.
Oh, that's quite a drop off.
I hated it.
For just a few minutes?
I hated it.
Wow.
It changed, but it changed the whole ending of the movie.
But really, it's the walls of death he didn't care for being honest.
He got claustrophobic while watching the movie.
Okay, well, for me, there's 3 different movies kind of happening here. You've got a movie based on the Cold War, you've got a love story, and you've got a sci-fi story. And I'm here for all three of them. I thought they were great. I thought this movie delivered well when I was a kid. I thought it held up over the test of time as well, even with the director's cut version. So I'd probably do theatrical 4.2 nerds, and for the director's cut, a 4.0.
So you lowered the director's cut as well,
But only 0.2, not a full. Jeez,
Yeah,
that was a full nerd.
Yeah,
Want one?
no,
Because at the end of the day, I'll dig deeper in that here too. Knowing what I know now and doing the deep dive for behind the scenes shit that happened in that movie, all the intensity, all the shit, all the emotions that came together to make this movie get executed, that director's cut version can't take away now what I saw in the emotion and the acting and the things that happened. So I'm a fan.
This is, and I'll explain why I don't like why it really made me hate that version that I watched.
I thought you already explained that.
It kind of. I get why people will like it. That ending. I understand why they will like that ending. I hate it because it felt like a forced agenda.
What would have felt like a forced agenda that we watched recently? The party animal?
What forced agenda?
You.
He's just trying to get laid the whole time.
And you making us watch it. There was 2 of them. You fuck. 2 of them.
Listen, the party animal wasn't that horrible. I can't be that
Watch your
mean.
mouth.
You. Oh yeah. This. Anyways,
We're not doing that again.
Go back to your.
Oh no, I'm done.
All right. Well.
4.365.
Jesus Christ. Surprised you can go 3.14 and try and do pi.
Not that smart. No, I thought it was a good movie. I mean, yeah, I don't think I could ever give a movie a 5. There's always going to be something.
I did early on.
I think there's a few movies out there that I could give a perfect 5 to.
But I everything that you guys just said, the appreciation that they finished the movie, because
for sure.
There's probably a lot of hatred on that set, especially between cast and director.
Like he said, that some of them won't even talk about it to this day or do an interview about it.
Like, it's over, it's done, move on. But that shows professionalism. If that happened this day and age, oh God, everyone just gonna quit. This is my truth. Leave me alone. So, I think my number's right. I think I'll leave it where it's at. 4.365. 2. 2 at the end.
After digging on that movie a little bit, though, and understanding the back scenario and the emotions, there's the movie on Netflix. I appreciate it a little bit more too. No, The Bubble. It's basically where all these actors are put in a crazy scenario to film during the pandemic, and the things that they're forced to do on set, off set, and where they're forced to stay. Man, to your point, if that movie would have gone over today, wouldn't have happened.
Oh no, everybody would have walked out on it.
I had a talk with my friend's stepdaughter this morning. I went over to a little tattoo situation I was trying to help out with, non-parental. Hey, you're 17, don't do that, So I went over real quick before I came here, and it was funny because she was complaining about a teacher and how she's racist, she hates me, and I'm like, why? They go, so she's doing her job? I was like, you guys are soft. I was like, you're not always going to have a teacher that's going to make you happy. You're not going to get along. Just get through the class. Next year, it doesn't matter. I was like, but the one thing you don't want to do is be a problem, because next year all the teachers talk, and now you're going to be a problem. And she's, yeah, but you make a movie like this now, and everyone's going to... I just wish we could get back to where it's just like, where it was just, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't want to be a part of it, don't be a part of it. But it doesn't mean you got to stop it from happening, because some of us have that kind of humor. Mm-hmm. Some of us are strong enough to go, fuck it, let's go.
Some of us want to see the party animal.
Some are one, because just you. Do you actually watch that multiple times a year?
No, but I every now and then I'll pull it out and I'll be like, you know what, I want to watch.
Do you actually pay attention to it, or are you like playing on your phone, it's just background noise?
No, I watch it.
You actually sit down, like, you're like, phone's off. Party animal.
Yeah.
I believe him.
I do believe him. It hurts me to think.
And I do the same with Porky's. All the Porky's movies and Police Academy.
I saw Police Academy finally during Christmas. I saw the first one. It was funny.
Well, the first 3 are really the only ones worth watching.
I'm gonna wrap this up with a little spoiler action. So for my next choice for a movie, I decided that I was going to go outside of my comfort zone because I am so afraid of heights.
Is it something that we can actually find, or we have to rent?
No, this is an easy find. It's a newer movie, but
if you're 2 for 2 on making us rent stuff.
I am?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Mr. Abyss. Let's talk about how hard it was to get your movie. Jesus.
We had to borrow a DVD from his dumbass.
And what'd you have problems finding with mine?
Falling Down wasn't available either.
That one.
Was it not?
What else?
This one.
Bullshit.
Not this one. The one that we're going to do today.
I had to rent it. I couldn't.
And then he gave me his login because
that big $3.
We got things to talk about.
I mean, it's fine.
Anyways,
it's fine.
what I was going to say though is I'm going to pick the movie The Fall. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's about people who climb, those giant towers, and it's about that, and these people get stuck up on one of these giant towers, and I'm deathly afraid of it. I've put off watching it. I've heard good things about it, but I just want to feel that.
The Fall?
Yeah.
All I'm finding is a TV series.
I know what he's talking about. Yeah.
I want to find that element again, like I did when I watched Night of the Living Dead for the first time, that something makes my stomach drop and I actually can feel the horror of what's going on. So I decided to challenge myself, and even though I hate heights, I'm going to go that route.
I've actually got my next 3 picked.
Oh, wow.
Next 3.
Oh, so. It's just called Fall.
Well, okay, Fall.
Well, there's a crime film called Fall, The Fall, in 2008.
Jeez, you're slow at finding this stuff, huh?
And then there's The Fall in 2006.
So anyways, we all have given our ratings. Guys, if you're interested, please check us out. 3cinenerds@gmail.com is the email.
Start sending us what you guys want us to do, because I'm getting tired of JP's picks.
Yeah, seriously. And maybe we'll put up some more polls in the future to have you guys select some movies.
No, I don't trust them. Never mind. Don't do it. Never mind. I forgot. Never mind. I don't trust any of you fucks.
Hey, if we do that, there's been so many people that have... I don't know how many people have commented and messaged me saying, you need to watch The Leprechaun. Review The Leprechaun. And I am all for it because Warwick Davis is a national treasure.
Disney doesn't think so right now.
Disney doesn't think so. I think so.
You guys suck.
So I'm all about doing The Leprechaun at some point, but that is if we put a poll up, that is the kind of films that they are going to choose.
You don't know that.
Never mind.
We'll see.
No, I do know that. I do know that. It's already been proven, and I've been in the chats where they've said the stupid shit.
You're setting yourself up for them to choose these things for you.
They're going to do it anyway.
No,
it doesn't matter if I did or not, because this is just what...
You can look at it like this. If they were to choose Leprechaun, you get to see Jennifer Aniston. It was her first film.
Oh, yeah. It's a great time for her. Oh. It's the only thing Friends did right was the temperature settings in that set. All 3 of those women always had the best shirts on and the best weather indicators ever.
Turkey's done.
Yes. Anyways, 3cinenerds@gmail.com. Send us the suggestions. Send us whatever you got. We want to hear from you. Also, if you are looking for whatever streaming platform you're choosing these days, go onto our bio on our Facebook, and you guys can find everything there in our link tree, including our merch store. So check it out.
Please click like, follow, subscribe. Please share.
Sharing is caring.
Anytime we post a video or an event or a flyer promoting an episode, tell your friends, share it. That helps more than anything you can do, other than watch and listen. So, why am I getting flipped off right now?
That's where I'm at this point.
Oh boy,
he's mad at me again.
I'm gonna make my list that then they can choose from.
No,
I mean, it helps.
I mean, we can do that. We can do a poll with your list. Then I can make a poll with my list.
Your list is everything that they want to watch anyway.
No.
I'll do a list of nothing but.
Again, I'll drive home. I'll drive home the fact that we are all very diversely different in our movie taste, music taste, the whole bit. So we all bring a little bit something different to the table.
All right. Well, hey, this was The Abyss. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next week.
CineNerds out.
Bye.